Good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name's Lorne Risley, host of the show. How you doing? Sorry it's been a minute. It's been a while, and I've just realised, oh God, I've spent literally fucking 2 hours trying to plan a good angle of my stupid face. Is that any better? Yes, you can actually see me in the frame now, so that'll do, I suppose. Pain in the ass. It's not easy, this YouTube lark, honestly. Anyways, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining me. I thought I'd hop on because not only do I have a few things to talk about, but of course, Premier Battles, the Plug 4, gets its pre-party on tonight. Close personal friend of mine, Dub T, is on the card, facing De Burke. I'm rooting for him. We're going to talk about that first and foremost as well, because it's pertinent. I've been hyping it up to everyone that I will speak to as being the seminal battle rap event of the year. I understand Don't Flop had their 15th anniversary card, and by all accounts, it did great, even with their own setbacks. But for me, you know, Premier Battles have been the ones that have really sought to do some good in the scene this year. And obviously, I've had a fair affiliation with them. Amongst others, I've interviewed most of their contemporaries, so I was really looking forward to seeing how this card was going to unfold. Unfortunately, because of a few dropouts, the card has reshuffled and reshaped, and that's a shame, because I really hoped that, especially for the guys like Dub T, this was an opportunity for them to really grab the brass ring and capture the imagination of fans that maybe aren't privy to watching the more low-key events like the short circuits, the match days, things of that nature. But nevertheless, I did want to take a second to really wish the guys specifically on this card the best of luck, because I really think that the show is still there to be stolen to a certain degree. If Battle Rap has taught me anything in the last few months, especially with the recent Quill and Gemini battle, is that it doesn't take much for someone to have a viral moment. It just takes a particular set of circumstances, an execution, and a reaction. And so long as the crowd are into it, so long as the battlers are into it, and so long as they're committed, prepared, and professional, then they'll fucking kill it. They'll absolutely nail it. And of course, we'll talk about the main card tomorrow. I think we'll hop on and do a card to like a little hype thing for the card tomorrow. But I just wanted to take a second as well, even though on social media I've already done this, to wish everyone that's on the card today the best of luck. And I really sincerely hope that everyone smashes it. I really do. Same for the organisers, the guys at Premier Battles, Trubs, Bloodstro, Briggsy, and everyone affiliated, Ray Charles, everyone affiliated with it. Wish them all the best of success, and they thoroughly deserve it. I also just want to make a point. 2 very quick things about this chat. I've changed the latency, so I don't see the chat immediately anymore, but hopefully it improves the stream quality. But I also note that the chat is disconnected. Not entirely sure how that happened, so I apologize if you're not able to chat with me in real time on this stream. I'll take a look at it and hopefully fix it for the next stream. Interviews won't... I don't think I'll ever do them live, by the way. There's just too much wiggle room for mistakes, whereas when I'm recording a session with a guest, it's just much easier to be able to kind of course correct, as it were, and then edit around the rough edges as you go. So anyways, let's talk about probably the reason you're here. Shotty Horroh. As you know, I've been chasing that interview for a long time. This is a true story. There were 2 people I messaged originally for an interview in, I think it was August of 2021. And one of them was Alex Stewart of TIFO. We did have a conversation, but unfortunately we're just never able to get our wires together in terms of sitting down for a proper interview. Shotty was the second. Now, Shotty, I understood, was going to be a little bit harder to get a hold of, because from my understanding, number one, he's got a million plates he's spinning, but secondly, he's not a social media whore like I am. So he's not always checking his messages, and he's not always in the mood to deal with people he doesn't deal with. And so for the longest time, I kind of resigned myself to never getting the interview, because I just figured, well, it's just not on the cards. It's not something he'd necessarily be interested in. It's not something that would necessarily derive any benefit from. And I always felt that was a bad thing, really, because having done my research, and believe me, I've done my goddamn research. I won't show you my phone, but I've gone ahead and made some notes, a few questions. Okay, maybe more like 50 or 60 of them, but I promise I will narrow it down to maybe 5 or 6 key questions for when I sit down and talk to him. But, you know, I've had a long time to think about what I want to ask him, and the reason I wanted to talk to him, and the reason I think it's a great thing that he will hopefully agree to sit down, if not next week, very soon, is that I will give him something different. Having watched his interviews with music channels, with other battle rap stations, with his friends, and on the street, what I see with Shotty is that he often gets asked questions about who, what, and when. And that's fine. I've got no problems with that. You know, tell me about the time that you hung out with Drake or met Jay-Z or the time you did an album or anything. I think, though, that it's a crying shame that no one's ever asked him the why and the how. Shotty Horroh is held up as one of the most, if not the most successful UK battle rapper of all time. He is also worldwide renowned as a battle rapper. He is a successful musician. He's a live musician. He runs 2 different promotions and has founded 3. You know, he's been the star of another promotion, you know, and largely is a person that forges his own path. And I think a lot of creators would fucking kill to be able to do what he does. So it's madness to me that no one has ever sat down and given the guy really any real birth to explain how he feels about that, shed whatever insight he has into how he was able to accumulate and accrue the career he has, and also reflect upon it. Like, just give the man an opportunity to sort of say his piece in terms of how he's done and why he's done what he's done, because he's a fascinating character. And I won't bore you with the ins and outs right this second, but I do think it's important to kind of say that Shotty Horroh is someone that kind of epitomizes the kind of character I want to cover on this channel, in so much as he's perhaps not worldwide famous, but within his scene, within his genre, he has almost no peer. In the same way that some of the football writers that I've interviewed, some of the musicians I've interviewed, I get that they're not worldwide stars, but that's because ultimately there's something about them that refuses to conform to a populace or a consensus style that I respect. I respect that he hasn't just done what everyone else did. There's something about Shotty Horroh that is I don't know what the plural word is, but he's a maverick of some description. When you look back at his history, having done the research that I've done, it's apparent that at every stage he's kind of done what appears to be the common sense thing for him, but to everyone else seemed revolutionary at the time. He doesn't rate what he does as highly as everyone else does. It just seems to come like as a piece of common sense to him, and that's fascinating. So I can't tell you how excited I am to talk to him. Without a doubt, the biggest interview I've ever done. I will do everything I can to try and make sure that I am as prepared as I possibly can be, that the interview is as succinct, well produced, and well moderated as is as humanly possible to be, and I sincerely hope you join me for it, because it's going to be hard to top. It's going to be really hard to top. I don't have a firm time and date yet, though. I will say that. So I will apologize in advance that I can't give any more information at this point as to when exactly it's going to be going down. But to say even the prospect of talking to him is absolutely mind-blowing is underselling it quite a bit. And frankly, I hope it's the first of many. I hope I'm just one channel that he frequents. I hope he goes on Trubs' show, The Wiretap. Sorry. It's the Plug TV now. Sorry, my apologies. London Gen. I hope he does the lot, because I think we need to see more of Shotty Horroh in the space at the moment. I really do, especially considering the cancellation, which is really unfortunate for all concerned. I think it would have done the scene the world of good this year, especially after the year they've had. They really need to capitalize on what seems to be a building momentum for battle rap, which leads me on to excuse me, the week I just had. Now, I'm going to say up front, I'm not going to talk about the thing you all think I'm going to talk about if you've been following my social media posts. The reason for that is simple. I want to try and keep things as professional as I can. And we've kind of or at least I have, in my mind, left it and buried it, and it's done, and we're going to just do our own things respectively now. So I'm going to leave it at that. However, I wanted to talk about how I felt about the week and a few other things, because things were said, and I reflect on things people say to me quite a lot. It's difficult for me to not try and take on board what people say, especially when they come from a position of having some credibility. So, one of the things that I was starting to really think about was my conduct. And the last video I did actually was a video on mental health and dealing with life. And I felt like it's kind of ironic that since then, in fact, that video, that was kind of the beginning of the end as far as my year was concerned. It was a downhill fucking stretch from there, man. Like, personal life took a series of pretty big hits. Professional life took a series of pretty big hits. I hadn't yet gotten into the groove with my training. My YouTube had dried up because I didn't have any interviews lined up or that I was pursuing all that vociferously. And so, of course, you know, when you make a video like that and things start going wrong for you, you have a tendency of reacting badly. So last week wasn't a great moment for me in terms of how it all unfolded. So what I wanted to say was it was disappointing to see that in myself be expressed again, because I'm working as hard as I can to try and not be such a fucking smart ass. But on the other hand, what has also happened in the last couple of months is probably the reason why I wouldn't be able to stop myself from doing something similar in the future. I'm getting used to fighting my own corner by myself. It's very difficult for me to lean on other people, and it's very difficult for me to look at other people as sources of backup and comfort at the moment because of just how things have gone recently. And I wanted to talk about that because that kind of lends back into what I was talking about in my previous video. In terms of, I would preach that everyone does what they can to try and secure their own lives in their own way. Be an island to a certain degree in so much as your capabilities, not necessarily in terms of your social circle. I do believe that you shouldn't isolate yourself, and it's a terrible thing to do because there's often a very difficult path back for you. But certainly in terms of your capability and capacity to be able to stand up for yourself, because one of the things that will never leave me is just my belief that I am entitled to rationalize and express myself in any means that I deem fit. And I'm also willing to take on board that people might have an issue with that and might want to confront that. And I'm welcoming to that, and I'm accepting to that. And I actually appreciate and enjoy it. There's not really many conflicts where I haven't gone back and forth with someone where ultimately I didn't arrive at a conclusion that ultimately we can get past this. There's maybe one or two people in my entire life who, having conversed with, I felt, nope, I can't deal with that fucker. Fuck them. Fuck them in the ear. I don't want to deal with them again. And yeah, man, it was disappointing, but ultimately it's one of those situations where I don't know if I would have done anything differently in hindsight, which is a sad thing to say because, like, after the exchange, I felt like reflecting and like, man, like there were some things that were said that made me go, right, man, okay, fair enough. Maybe I need to do some self-reflection. Maybe I need to look into things a little bit and sort of address certain things that maybe there's always, especially when there are exchanges made. There's sometimes kernels of truth in things that are just mispresented to you. One of the things that I had recently, and I'll share this with you, was a professional gripe. And I took this to someone within my company, and the response I got was not productive. And it was incredibly frustrating to me. But ultimately, I lost sight of what you're supposed to do in these situations, which is to always remember what you want to garner or get from the situation. In my case, it was just a feeling of security. And I forgot that you have control over that. And the way you give yourself security is you make yourself indispensable. And the way you make yourself indispensable in a lot of situations is you work harder and better than anybody else. It's a thing in my life that the things that I can apply myself most heavily towards and most consistently towards are the things that I tend to excel at. That's why weight training is something that I've always done well. You know, when I started YouTube and I got seriously into it, you know, the growth and the improvement of my content was exponential. So, rambling on, I just wanted to say that the last week was disappointing to me personally. I hope it never happens again with anybody else. You know, from a professional standpoint, you know, and I do consider this, you know, not a job, but certainly, you know, this interview series has been such a boon for me and my channel. It really has. It's allowed me to continue to do YouTube within the confines of my new life. And it's allowed me to meet some fucking fantastic people and get the insights of people that I would have never dreamed of being able to speak to prior. And this week, again, there's no exception. You know, the exchange, for what it's worth, was still useful to me in a number of ways. And next week, or the week, whenever it happens, Shotty Horroh is one of those kinds of examples of guests where I would go, I can't believe I'm talking to you. And I can only hope that I can overcome that feeling, yet retain the enthusiasm from it, and give Shotty and you something worth tuning in for. And I wanted to present this to you because I feel like this is part of what I was saying in my first video, and something that I've really come to reinforce over the last couple of weeks, which is you should always try and derive something positive from everything that happens in your world. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, short of being hit by a bus and being told you have 5 minutes to live, I grant you there's not a lot of positives you can derive from something along those lines. But in my case, setbacks and failures are often opportunities to reflect, rebuild, and re-establish where you want to go. And some people don't get that. I know that sounds weird, but some people's failures happen when it's too late. Or some people's failures happen when they're not in a position to be able to capitalize on an opportunity of rebuilding, restructuring, and reanalyzing what they want to do. In my case, it's hard for me to come to terms with things sometimes, but most of the time after a degree of mourning or some grief period, you come to realize that, no, okay, it's not, the game's not done. So let's figure this out and let's go forward. So I wanted to present that to you because, again, I feel like that for a couple of weeks there, I was really low. I didn't really talk to anyone, but I was posting a lot on social media, and there were a lot of people reaching out to just try and give me a pickup, and I never really said publicly thank you for that or tried to garner something from it and present it to you. So I wanted to do that. And this week, again, I want to apologize to anyone that saw that and was disappointed in the exchange and in me, because I can certainly appreciate and understand that. But I also feel like I need to stress the point that if I ever feel like me or anyone I care about needs standing up for, I'm also that person these days that I just can't really stand by and let something go when I can do something. So that's why I wanted to apologize, because it's also something that I can't promise won't ever happen again under similar circumstances. But I can say to you that having reflected and having applied myself, I'm glad the exchange occurred. I'm not necessarily the happiest with the fact that I've now got to deal with a poor impression from someone, because I don't want to have a poor impression with anybody. But nevertheless, we move on. We move forward, and we hopefully learn, build, and grow, and all the rest of that good jazz. That's all I kind of wanted to talk about. Because, again, next week is where we really kick off. And I guess what I want to finish on is this. So, aside from Shotty Horroh, and I'm sorry, by the way, for the sniffing and the coughing and whatnot. My head's full of cold, and I've been sick twice, actually, in the last month. So I apologize in advance for probably getting sick again. But nevertheless, Shotty Horroh. Marlowe. His interview's been in the can for a little while, but the editing has been somewhat troublesome with that. I'm hoping to have that one done in the next couple of days. But of course, I want him to give it the final approval, so I hope you'll bear with me on that, and you'll continue to bear with me on that. Crow, a fellow YouTuber, his is also in the bag. That's also requiring editing and also requires the okay. Now, where it gets interesting is that at the event I did, Match Day 5, there were a couple of guys who agreed to come on the show. Reverse is one. Kingsley Thunder is another. I'm pretty sure I could get Rick Charles on. I'd love to talk to him. He's a fascinating character. You should really, if you aren't following him, you should go follow him on Twitter and on Instagram. Who else? Mr. Stroh. got to get Mr. Stroh back on. I really enjoyed our first interview, and I think there's a couple of other questions that I didn't get to pose to him that I would like to pose to him at some stage in the future as well. Tony D is another big one because we have some very fascinating discussions about the world at large, and I had a topic that I wanted for him a little while back. Because of things, I missed our window, so that was a shame. But I'm confident I'll get him back. I'll tell him Steven Seagal is going to be on, and he gets to face off with him, and he'll jump on it in a meeting. Those two have a weird beef, and I need to explore that. Who else have we got? We've Dub T as well. And I'm going to just share this with you because this was an interesting turn of events. P Soldier, me, and Dub T are discussing something. I won't tell you any more than that, but it's certainly something I'm really fucking excited about. So I hope we can turn something around and present something to you soon. But for now, at least, just know that we're cooking on something in the background. It's a lot of fun, and I think for those of you that are so inclined, you're going to really enjoy it when it's polished and when it's presented. Frankie Fraser as well is the final one that comes to mind. We actually did a whole interview, and I wish I could pull the footage for you right now so you could see what I was presented to my horror the day after when I sat down to edit it, which was a resplendently filmed and without flaw recording, with one tiny little exception, which was that the fucking audio on his end didn't work. And I'm pretty sure I know why. We were swapping around headsets and sound settings before we went live to make sure that he was comfortable and it sounded great. And he sounded great in my earphones. But I think what happened is that the recording software that I use did not compensate for the switch. So that is still my fault. I should have stopped the recording and tried it again. So that's still my fault. I'm hoping that we can find a gap in his calendar, because since then he's gone on to battle Thesaurus, and I'm sure he's got a thing or two to say about that battle. And it would just be great. His was a fascinating conversation. He's a fascinating character as well, with such a rich tapestry and a history in battle rap that you need to hear it. So what I'm saying is that there's an awful lot more to come from the Halcyon Show in the next few weeks before we wrap up for Christmas. And I'm probably going to do an end of year show and wrap up for Christmas and New Year, because I doubt anyone's going to want to come on the show in the interim period. But I will try and get all of that and more done between now and New Year. And we'll do an end of year wrap up, maybe a best of. I'd quite like to make a best of. I've never done one of those before, but it'd be kind of fun to put a best of, for the best moments of the year together. That'd be kind of cool. And it would be nice to do a few more of these live streams with the chat working, so I can hopefully have some of you lovely guys and gals on. Also, I will say, because I have the live function and the Zoom function now, there's no reason why, if anyone wants to hop on and give their 2 cents, even if it's just for a few minutes and then hop back off again, be that guest, be that you guys in the chat, whomever, I'd actually be kind of interested to have you on for a few minutes, maybe ask a question, maybe just throw out a topic of discussion, all the rest of it. A bit like a phone-in show. I always wanted to do that, and now that I have the Zoom function on here to be able to divert to, it's perfectly feasible and possible. You've actually seen in a previous live stream that Dub T hopped on midstream, which, okay, cool, absolutely fine. So that might be kind of a fun concept to play with, but that's all then. For now, I want to say thank you for bearing with me. I want to thank everybody who's been checking out the channel in my absence for just keeping the views ticking up and the watch times ticking, because I'm staggered that I still have approximately 100 people a day watching for about 100 hours a week my channel, because that's amazing. That's fucking insane. So thank you so much to everybody who's been checking it out in the interim period. Please stay tuned, because I've got some hopefully really fucking amazing stuff coming in for you to tune into. Thanks for joining me this evening. I, again, wish everyone at the Plug 4 and Premier Battles the best of luck for what has hopefully been an amazing card tonight, and also what promises to be an absolutely epic event on Sunday. And yeah, I sincerely hope you're all taking care of yourselves, and that as we head into a Christmas period, which for some is magical and wonderful and full of pixies and delight, might be quite tricky. I sincerely hope you're taking care of yourselves, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with me. So, till next time, I'm Lorne. I've been the host of the Halcyon Show, and I'll see you on the next edition.